Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the February Dad X discussion for the National At-Home Dad Network. I want to welcome everybody who's watching us live, whether you're out there on Facebook or watching us on YouTube or watching us on LinkedIn. For those of you who are watching on Facebook or on YouTube, please feel free to ask whatever questions you have in the chat. It will show up live for us here so that we can address your questions and or comments as they come up. Our topic this month is one that is kind of important to me, as well as a lot of other people that I know. And overall, it comes under the umbrella of self-care. I'm an older dad. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. The image that I was given was that, men were supposed to support their family. They were supposed to go out and earn money and, be there for the family. But no one ever talked about taking care of ourselves. Unfortunately, in this day and age, there's not a lot of focus put on self-care. And for those of us who give care, as our primary job, whether that's as a stay-at-home parent or maybe you work from home, but if you're the primary caregiver, that's what you end up doing. And you can't really take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself, which is what brings us to our guest this month. Pete Armstrong and I connected with each other over Instagram. The two of us are both a member of the Sober Instagram community, which is where we initially connected, and we got to talking. And one of the things that Pete does that is absolutely amazing is that Pete specializes in helping men develop positive habits, develop ways to help care for themselves so that they can inherently care for other people. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Pete on to the stage and welcome aboard, Pete. If you would, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background so that they understand, where you're coming from.
Yeah, well, thank you for this opportunity, Matt. I love being with you. It's always a blessing to be with you and spend some time with you. We always laugh and get into good conversations. Actually, I want to do something different before I share a little bit about me. Since this topic is about self-care and filling our cup, I would love to take a moment just to do a little small breathing exercise. I'm feeling myself a little nervous. I've had a busy morning and I could use about a minute. In addition, I think this is a great opportunity for you to also connect with yourself, Matt, and even the viewers that if they just want to, here's 1 minute tangible way that we can, what I'm going to call self-regulate and calm our nervous system down, which is a beautiful way in which to be present, lower anxiety, and just feel like we can actually handle the day.
Absolutely.
So would you mind if you did a little minute of this?
Not at all, man. Go ahead.
Well, so, and if you're viewing now and you're listening, if you're obviously driving, I encourage you not to close your eyes. But if you're in a space where you can close your eyes, I encourage you to close your eyes. Sit with a straight spine. I like to say sit with vitality, like you're telling your body and your mind that you're healthy, that you have muscles, that you are healthy. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do something called square breathing. It is a breathing technique and tool that is used by the U.S. Navy SEALs. On average, they do about 15 minutes a day. And I want you to know that Navy SEALs are not much different than us. They just use amazing tools and have discipline and routines that allow them to do what they do. And this is just one small tool that they use. We're only going to do it for about 30 seconds, though. It's called square breathing, and it's because you're going to inhale. If you want to open your eyes, if you're watching, you're going to inhale for 4 seconds. We're going to hold our breath for 4 seconds. We're going to exhale for 4 seconds, and we're going to close the square by just resting for 4 seconds. We'll do that 3 times. Before we begin, I always like to just let out some air. Do a sigh. Give yourself a little exhale, a sigh that just says, I'm okay. Let's begin the square breathing again. We'll do it 3 times. Let's inhale for 4 seconds. Inhale through your nose. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. And that is it. It's that simple. Anybody can do it. And the breath is probably the most effective way to lower our regulate our nervous system. And self-regulation is an amazing way to feel more secure in your body, which makes you feel more secure in life. Okay. So with that, without further ado, I'll give you a little intro of who I am. I'm many things. First and foremost, I would say the biggest pleasure in my life and passion is being a father. I love being a dad. I've struggled in that role the majority of my life, and a lot of my pain and desire for self-improvement is because I wanted to be a better father. I wasn't the best dad. But I love being a dad. I have 3 kids from 2 different relationships. So I've been divorced. I've been a single dad the majority of my life. So I have the whole blended family dynamic. I have the divorce dynamic, and I have the single parent dynamic. The struggle's been real. But life is on the mend for me. I'm in a really good place. I have 3 kids, an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And my oldest is going to be leaving for college in a couple months, which is kind of crazy. I am an avid cyclist. I love racing bikes. I love riding bikes. I love mountain biking. I love road biking. I love gravel, all of it. I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a real big fan of Jesus. I make it specific how I'm talking about that. I'm not just saying I'm Christian in faith. That is important, but I want people to know that who aren't Christian, that I am a huge fan of Jesus and how he goes about life. So that is important to me. And lastly, I would say I am in recovery. I've been sober from alcohol for almost 4 years. I also been sober from any sort of pornography or casual sex for over 10 years.
Awesome.
And so these are 2 areas in which I now help men with. I've been there. I know why I used it, and I want to teach men. Let's get to the root. And so in my business, I am I guess you could say, a mental fitness coach and trainer. I largely help men, specifically dads, 35 to 50, who are struggling with happiness or struggling in their relationships, and who may have some unhealthy coping mechanisms, or maybe even they're called addictions. I look at it like, do you know that it's holding you back? And if you know it's holding you back, but you continue to use it, it's time at some point to reconsider this thing in your life. And so what I do is I do one-on-one coaching with men, and I do group mental fitness trainings with men. And so I'm really teaching men how to use their mind and how the mind operates so they can better use it as a tool. And I really teach men about emotions. I do a lot of emotional intelligence training, a lot of emotional agility and emotional fitness, because our emotions, Matt, you were talking about how like the 70s and 80s and not teaching us, men weren't supposed to have emotions, right?
Right.
Bullshit.
How many times as a kid when you hurt yourself, and you might be crying or something, how many times did I hear, oh, just man up, man, shake it off. Come on, you got this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still, thankfully now we're starting to realize that humans are an essential piece to the human experience. And so that doesn't mean that we just dwell in our sadness. It doesn't mean we dwell in our anger. It doesn't mean we, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with being angry. There's nothing wrong with being angry. Get curious about why you're angry. Aggression, that's a different thing. Okay?
Right.
But I want to make that clear, because oftentimes I'll speak for myself and also my clients. We get this, we're already in shame or fear. We show anger, and then we get shame because we were angry. And it's like, oftentimes you're not in shame because you're angry. You're actually in shame because you got aggressive. You yelled. You put somebody down. You resented them. That's when shame comes in. So angry is just saying, hey, listen, no, this is not cool. I'm just going to set a boundary, and that's it. That's angry. So angry is okay. My point is about emotions is, if you can better understand your emotions, you can better understand your thinking, and you can better understand your behavior.
And that's the key is, again, when we were doing the breath work earlier, to me, it is an absolutely amazing thing, because in that moment when you're completely focused on your breath, it brings that sense of awareness and mindfulness to the forefront. Because and again, I find this in my own parenting. Sometimes I move too quickly into being reactionary, as opposed to like actually addressing what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. There's that knee-jerk reaction. And over time, I've gotten better and better about thinking things through and discussing things in a more calm and, to be blunt, productive manner, whether it's with my wife, whether it's with my kids, or honestly, even my coworkers. And though I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad, I do volunteer here with the National At-Home Dad Network, and I'm on the board of directors. So, I have coworkers, and it makes a huge difference. It really, really does. I know one of the techniques that I've developed that I use with my kids now, because, and again, my oldest is my daughter, who just turned 10. So she's just hitting those tween years. So she's basically 10 going on 30. And my son is 7, or is about to turn 7. And the problem that we're currently facing right now is that he's still in that little kid mode. And she's starting to develop into this, a little bit more adult phase. And their interactions have begun to grate on each other. The other day we had problems with my daughter just wanted to read her book. And, my son walked up and said, hey, why don't we go and play and do this? And she explained, no, I just really want to read my book. And previously, his reaction has always been to go away and then just come back and hound her every 2 to 3 minutes until she finally relents and says, fine, I will play with you. Just leave me alone afterwards. And, which is fine. And then all of a sudden, in the last couple of months, he's begun getting physical. Reach out and try to snatch the book away from her and that type of thing. And it gets really tough as a parent. I hate to see that. If this had happened 3 or 4 years ago, my instant response would have been raise my voice, yell, stop, chastise him, all the rest of it. Recently, I've begun handling it very differently, where instead of that, we take a step back. My new technique, first of all, is just to separate them. And it's not a yelling and screaming of go to your room. It's like, it's one of those, okay, I need the two of you both to go to your rooms for a second, and let's think about the situation, and then we can talk about it. And then I'll go into one of their rooms and I'll talk to him about, where he was and what he did that was not correct. And then honestly, I will go into my daughter's room and I'll talk to her about things that she could have done differently. And the little things like that really do make a difference. These are things that I know My dad never did once. And don't get me wrong, I had a great childhood. I had a great dad. He was there for me in so many wonderful ways. And I don't think he acted, parented in the way that he parented out of malicious intent or anything else. Honestly, it was the 70s and the 80s. He was doing what they were doing the best with what they knew at the time. It's just we've learned a lot since then.
Yeah. Well, let me if you don't mind, I want to respond to two things. One is I love how what you're saying is I accept my dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's acceptance, which is beautiful. Acceptance is powerful because if we're blaming your father, right? Like then what you're doing is in some way, shape, or form, I am what I am because of that, which means that that it's going to be hard for you never to be that thing. And so if you can understand that, hey, my parents were doing the best that they could, given what you said, given the information they had, but I'm going to add to that, Matt, given the wounds that they had. Okay.
Yeah.
Back then, they had so many wounds they didn't know what that meant. Like I'm talking about the inner world.
Oh yeah.
You have wounds from childhood. Like your parents, right? We don't know what your dad's childhood was. We don't know what your mom's childhood was, right? And so that's really important to understand that our parents, they're humans. They might have had some tough childhood, and now they're trying to be a parent. And the older ones, they didn't even have any like resources or education. It's kind of like, look at surgery. How old are you, Matt?
52.
52, right? Like think about surgery in the last 30 years. How much has changed in surgery? The same thing with mental health. So much has changed with trauma research, the whole nine. So I just want to say that. So I think if I want anyone to use the listeners here today is that if you can work with a therapist, a guy like me, to understand that we got to learn to forgive and accept and understand our parents, because that's a big, big place of opportunity. That's it. Say that. One thing I want, what you did with your kids and separate them, and you responded. Kudos to you, man.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. That's saying
it's not easy. It's not always the easiest thing to do. You got to bite your tongue sometimes.
You don't bat 1,000, but if this is something I always tell my clients, listen, we're not going for batting 1,000 here. We're going to try to reduce the intensity of how you handle things and how you go about life, reduce the intensity of your stress, your anger, your anxiety, whatever it is, your stress, right? And the frequency. So if we can go from 20 episodes a month, it's called episodes, and there were 15 of them, let's reduce the intensity to 10 per month. And maybe the frequency is 18. Let's make progress. This is very big in recovery, right? Progress.
Right.
Yeah. And so that is something I always tell my clients too. I also say, transformation is it's not a switch. It's not a light switch. You can just turn on the light. You're like, hey, I'm here, man.
Wow. Sometimes we wish it could be, because that would be a lot easier.
Man, I just started dating after 3.5 years of not dating. And let me tell you, I wish it was a light switch. I wish I was there. But what I want to say is transformation, healing, personal development, growth, it's a dimmer switch. You don't know it. There's all these micro growths, and the light's just getting a little brighter, a little brighter, a little brighter every time you do the work. So that is something I want to have people remember, like, give yourself grace. You're learning some new things. It takes time.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I know that you focus on a lot are the techniques for coping or coping mechanisms, or, whatever you want to use, that people use when the stress hits their life or when times get rough. And again, being a part of the recovery community, because again, this coming May, I'll hit 10 years since my last drink, which is, yeah,
buddy.
Yeah, that's a big one. I'm hitting double digits.
Yeah, it is.
But the fact is, It's very interesting when I look at the parenting blogs and the parenting community, and good Lord, the memes that are out there for parents these days, where, it's like, dads, I'm having a rough time with the kids. Anybody got any recommendations? And the first 10 comments are bourbon.
Bourbon.
The first 10 comments are, bourbon, or, mommy needs wine, or that type of thing. And, that's just that's one really obvious example of those negative coping mechanisms. For me, obviously substance abuse was one, but I actually quit using substances when my daughter was only 4 months old. So that was never one of my negative coping mechanisms. My big one was just not addressing or not coping. I had a whole lot of that, just shove that down inside because we don't have time to deal
Matt,
with.
Let's
Yeah.
Let's talk about something. I think
Yeah.
this word you're talking about, I think everyone realizes, what does coping mean? What are we talking about? What are we coping with?
Well, how you handle stress,
Okay.
or honestly anything really, whether it's stress, shame, jealousy, how you deal with the negative emotions and or experiences in your life.
Beautiful. So this is important, I think, for everyone to understand. You hit the nail on the head. Stress, right? And under stress is shame and guilt and anxiety right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to think about what stress is, how does stress feel?
Well, again, I would say it ignites. You're not supposed to use the word when you define the word. Again, I think it ignites that response, that physiological and psychological response in your head of danger.
And what does that feel like when something's dangerous? Like, danger suggests that something's going to happen and it's going to be
right. You get that sense of anticipation, and your body immediately moves into that fight or flight response.
correct.
You're either going to punch back or run away.
Pretty much. There's other things that we can do with our nervous system, but running away or fighting are two. Another one is caving in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right? To literally, you feel so afraid that you just pretend like you're dead. If I just pretend like I'm dead, they won't eat me.
Or again, we've all been in that argument where at some point, even though you totally disagree with this person that you're having this discussion with, at some point, just in an effort to get out of the uncomfortable situation, you nod your head and go, okay, fine, I agree, and walk away, even though you don't.
Correct.
But it's that strategy of least resistance of, I just want out of this situation.
And sometimes that is like the pleasing, right? That's like a pleasing mentality. So what was trying to get at is, at the end of the day, what stress feels like is pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's pain. We have psychological, as you said, right? We have psychological, emotional, mental pain, and obviously we have physical pain. But the human experience, just remember this, like the human experience, we don't like pain. So guess what we're going to do every time we have pain? We're literally just trying to find a way to cope with that. And coping, right, is like, we're trying to cope with pain. What cope means, how I see it in the context in which we're speaking, we're just trying not to have pain. Right?
But
and unfortunately, we can reap addiction. Alcohol helps with coping with pain. Drugs help with coping with pain. Overeating helps coping with pain. Working too much helps coping with pain. Video games helps coping with pain. Binge watching TV helps coping with pain. So guess what? What's wrong with coping with pain? So in some way, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
We don't like pain.
Right. The issue is, and I guess that's the difference. That's the meat of what you work with, is that coping is fine, but that's a temporary solution to a long-term problem. Not only do we need to cope with these issues, whether it's stress or, whatever kind of pain that you're coping with, not only do you need to be able to cope with it, but you also need to address it, or it's going to be a continual trigger. Correct. Where it is going to constantly come back up and back up.
Correct. And, oftentimes what I really want to make clear is that most men don't realize their coping strategies are unhealthy, but what they don't understand is that they're in pain. Just like I drink, for example, like I just drink. I drank for the majority of my life. I just thought it was like, it's what we did. I live in Wisconsin. We drank in Wisconsin, okay? So, but my point is, I didn't realize, and this has been an evolution for me, is that I was in pain. And until I realized that I didn't love myself, that I had shame from the family I belonged to, that I didn't feel like I belonged, that I didn't ever feel like I was accepted, that's painful. What if your daughter or son, right, felt like the way you and I know you also struggle with pain in your life too, right? I know this because we've talked. If your son or daughter, and this is for every man listening, every dad, if your son or daughter said, Daddy, I don't feel like I'm worthy. Daddy, I don't feel like I belong. Daddy, I don't love myself. Daddy, I don't like myself. And I'm not saying every listener today feels that way, but if you do have that, that's pain, brother. And you got to learn that if this was your son or daughter, what would you do for them?
Anything and everything you could to make it better.
Yes, Matt. And this is the paradigm I'm trying to help men understand is, listen, brother, look at yourself as a younger little boy. You're in pain, man. This is why you've been doing what you've been doing. So stop judging yourself for not being strong. Stop judging yourself for the addictions and start moving into empathy, compassion, and getting curious about yourself. Because if we can move over there, we can heal that wound. We can heal that pain.
Uh-oh.
The gaming. Yeah.
There you go. You froze up. The last I heard was we can heal that pain, and then everything stopped.
If we can get awareness around the pain, the root level issues, the pain, the struggle, right? Like if we can get to that pain and we can start shedding some light on it and healing it and less judgment and love and acceptance, stuff of that nature. The cool thing is it won't be as painful.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, the desire, so it's like a twofer. The other thing is cool is that if it's not as painful, you don't have to cope with such heavy mechanisms. So the cool thing is the desire for that bourbon, that desire for the wine gets reduced.
Yeah.
And then the piece that you were kind of getting at, and I kind of dived into something else, was that, Pete, what are the healthy coping mechanisms? But I want to be very clear, Matt. Listen, we need to be very clear that the reason why people choose unhealthy coping mechanisms is because they work.
Mm-hmm.
In some way, shape, or form, they work, man.
Yeah. I mean,
they work for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, they may not be good for you in the long term, but in the short term, it is an easy, quick fix. It's an easy distraction. Again, one of the things that I find very, very interesting in my life in raising two kids is my daughter, who's 10 now, is finally reaching a point of maturity where she now has the ability to sit with herself without stimuli, which is something that I find is rare. I mean, it's rare in adults. in this day and age where suddenly we have constant access to entertainment, information, whatever else, so few people are willing to just sit and exist within a moment. Whether you're in a waiting room, in a line, I mean, literally in the line to check out at the grocery store the other day, which was literally only 3 carts deep. So I mean, we're not, and it wasn't Costco, so these are quick carts. Yeah, well, I mean, 3 carts deep at Costco.
That's longer. It does.
30
Context
to 40
matters.
minute wait. At a regular grocery store, relatively small checkout, we're talking 5 to 7 minutes. And every adult that I saw in that line was staring down at their phone. They were checking their email. They were looking at social media. They were reading the news or something. And again, when I think back to when I was growing up, like, none of that was an option. I mean, the closest thing you had to entertainment in the checkout line was to read the headlines on the Weekly World News and find out where Bat Boy was this weekend. I mean, I don't know if you had the Weekly World News in Wisconsin, but that was my favorite as a kid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Even those people in the line,
mm-hmm.
in some way, shape, or form, based on a belief they have, okay, they have some sort of belief. They're probably in some sort of discomfort. They're like, you know what? Oh my God, I have to wait here for line. Oh. If you can just be present, here's a little tool. Focus on a sense. Focus on a physical touch. Focus on a visual. Focus on listening. Just pick a sense when you're waiting in line instead of going on the phone, and just focus on that sense. While you're waiting, I promise you're, again, regulating your nervous system. I'm talking about regulating nervous system because I'm a trauma-informed certified coach. So I really understand the body and the mind, but I'm also a mental fitness trainer and coach, certified mental fitness trainer. But what's really important is if we can understand our body and we can relax. And then, mm-hmm. like you said, you can then respond to your kid instead of react, So that's the thing with everyone in some way, shape, or form is struggling, and the phone is just another tool mm-hmm. to manage that anxiety. So Matt, the talk today is filling your heart's cup to fill the hearts of the ones you love. You and I kind of collaborated on this idea. How about we dive in? Talk a little bit.
Yeah, I'm all about it. So for me, where this comes from is that, there are certain things that I enjoy doing. Those have changed as time has gone by. But I find that, if I don't do the things that I need to do to take care of myself, I find that my interactions with others suffer.
Relationships.
I find, my temper is getting shorter. My attention span is shorter. My tolerance level is much, much lower. I tend to be less willing to engage when the time comes to engage. And again, some of the things that I need to do to keep myself happy are relatively simple. I need to have some social interaction with friends, and not feel that I'm isolated and alone. At the same time, one of the other ones that I get a huge amount of is spending time isolated and alone, specifically on my bicycle. There is an amazing recharge for me if I can hop on my bike and go pedal for 20 or 25 or 30 miles, preferably in somewhere pretty. I mean, we're lucky enough where I live in North Carolina that we have several really, really nice greenways that are nicely paved, where I get to bike through the woods and see pretty things and nature, and not necessarily have to spend most of the ride desperately trying not to get run over by a car. So, that definitely helps the
Funny enough.
overall, that overall helps the experience. But, this time of year, for example, is tough for me because it's cold out there. And cycling in the cold is not fun. I can bundle up with all the layers in the world and that's all great, but your nose is still going to be cold no matter how much the balaclava covers you and the rest of it. There will be that one little spot that is freezing. But again, I would still rather be out on the trail bundled up, like almost in snow pants, than spend the same amount of time pedaling an indoor trainer in the house. Because that just doesn't give me that time to be out with myself, because I'm in the house, in the background. I can hear what the kids are doing, what the wife is doing. It's hard to disconnect from that. Oh, but I need to be doing this. Oh, but I need to be doing that. Whereas when I'm out on the trail, hey, I'm here. Yeah, I'm present. Like, it's me and the trees and the rest of it. It's
which gets back to what I was saying. Like when we're in the grocery line, try to be present. So here's the thing: the mind. There's so much reason. The mind does not like multitasking. That's why, like, if you can't sleep, it's usually because you're thinking about something, you're trying to solve a problem. The mind doesn't like that. And so just like you're saying, when you're at home, you're on a trainer, the kids are doing that, it's like hard to do because your mind's like, And so the mind loves like solo focused, like to be focused on something. That's when it's most impactful.
So the key is, I'm lucky enough that I have found a few really good, healthy mechanisms to refill myself and to recharge myself. For the dads that are out there watching, what's the best way for them to discover what something is that they can use in this regard? Because again, not everybody is going to be the person whose idea of fun is going and pedaling a bike for 30 or 40 miles.
Guess what, man? The first and foremost is, to fill your cup. Fill your cup, by the way, for those who don't really, it's in some way, shape, or form, self-care.
I mean, I think the analogy. Oh, you're freezing up again on me. Oh, there you are.
I'm in a co-working space.
Okay. You're back.
So what I was saying is filling your cup is some way, shape, or form. What warms your heart? What's your self-care? What makes you happy? What helps you be your best self? What are the things that allow you to function at your best?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, not unfortunately, they're all action-based. Meaning you got to do something. You got to do something in order to make it happen. But Matt, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm not even going to share what they are. What's the most important to figure out what fills your cup? What's more important than that is working on what's in the way of you not believing you're worthy to fill your cup. Because that's what's going on. If you really wanted, if you really believed that you're filling your cup and self-care is a kind of like a deserving piece to your life, you would do it. And so I say that because, listen, filling your cup and self-care is not easy. Often there's something in the way, mentally, emotionally, that says to you, you don't get to go take care of yourself. You got to go get X, Y, and Z done in the house before you get to go for a bike ride. Or you're not good enough. You don't need self-care. What do you need self-care for? Or here's another one. Oh my God, I hear men say, I'm selfish if I go work out. I'm selfish if I ask for 20 minutes to myself. I'm selfish if I go for a bike ride, right? Mm-hmm. I'm selfish if I go to a men's group. And listen, man, That's not love. And so when you ask me what are the ways in which to find what fills your cup, we're not even there yet. What I say is, what is in the way of you not filling your cup? First and foremost, you need to understand what's in the way. And often, Matt, for everybody, it's some sort of limiting belief, because I promise you, there's not one person on this planet that doesn't deserve to fill their cup or give self-care. So what I say, you need to work on that. And so how do you do that? I mean, honestly, journal on it. Ask yourself, why do I not practice self-care? Why don't I fill my cup? And just start listening to what you're saying. And then once you start writing those things, do you want to continue to believe that?
I mean, I can honestly say, I know that one of the biggest hurdles for me, and again, if anybody else is out, for the folks that are out there watching live, by all means, let us know, what is it that prevents you from doing this?
Yes, please share.
Or at least what do you think? For me, I know the biggest one was that I prioritized everyone else ahead of myself. The idea was, and I'll fall back to an example of, in the middle of.
Before I have an idea. Example that doesn't even matter.
Right.
What were you getting from that, Matt? What were you getting? Do you mind if I ask you a tough question?
Oh, no, not at all. Please.
Matt, what were you getting from prioritizing everyone else's life? What did you get from that? How did it make you feel?
A false sense of pride. I mean, to be blunt, that was exactly it. Look at me. I'm strong enough that I can sit through all of this and I can make sure everybody else gets what they need because I'm strong enough to do it for everybody else.
And guess what? That feels good, doesn't it, Matt?
It does.
Until it doesn't.
Yeah, until it doesn't.
But my point is, this is where, right? Like, we have to. This is the critical work I do with men. Is we need to understand, right? And then I would ask you, like, what's the root of that, though, right? If I were to coach you on this, but I'm not going to. But the gist is, you got something from it, Matt. This is why you continue to do it. But then what was the consequence of that, Matt? Of having that mentality?
Was that eventually I burnt out.
And what does burnout feel like?
I was empty. I had nothing left to give. I didn't have the energy. I was failing both as a parent, as a husband, as a human.
How'd
Things,
that make you feel about yourself?
Oh, even worse.
Can I give you a hug?
Oh yeah. And of course, at which point, you beat up yourself even more. And
because that's what we need, right?
Right. And the gut response is, well, come on, dude. Once again, man up and just do what's got to be done. And it literally took one of my friends from outside of my immediate community reaching out to my wife to say, you need to talk to him. Yeah. Because I didn't feel like I could do it because I wasn't the priority.
Man. So this, to your point, this hits the nail on the head, man. So guess what? I said, what's in the way of you filling your cup? You gave an example. You just gave a tangible example of what men are struggling with. You just said, hey, man, here I am. I'm the guy, right? And that is beautiful that you're so vulnerable. And I would say this, just remember, the way in which we view ourselves is rooted in past experiences, and then these emotions and beliefs that we had surrounded on those experiences, and then that's causing pain. And so we got to find another way to feel good about ourselves, and we find these interesting behaviors, and then also we find addictions and unhealthy coping, right? And so this is what I would say. When you say, Pete, man, what are the ways in which that you can find out to fill your cup and practice self-care? Listen, what we're talking about right here, working on the things that are in the way that are in the way before you even get to self-care, it ain't gonna fucking happen. Oh, I don't know if I can swear.
But, no, it's fine.
Okay,
we're
you're not going to fill your cup if A, you don't think you're worthy of it, or B, you don't think you need it. So that's the thing. The second piece is this. You, in some way, shape, or form, this is tricky right here, but listen, in some way, shape, or form, you helping everybody else was filling your cup. You thought it was.
Yeah.
Because in some way,
it was in part just not quite enough.
It was filling, but unfortunately, you kept going, and then, well, now I have no water in my cup. Now I have nothing in my cup, and then that's when it leads to burnout. And so I want to say this because the behaviors in which we morph into, we think we're filling our cup, and also could be alcoholic, right? If your cup's not filled, but alcohol helps you cope with the pain, in some way, shape, or form, you're like, I don't need to fill my cup.
Right.
Because you numbed out. You forgot that the cup was empty.
Yeah.
I want to stop there because I know it's 46 minutes, but I want to, the point I'm trying to hit home, if you don't work on things that are in the way of you thinking you need to fill your cup, not going to happen. And in my opinion, the only way to get there is through really deep self-exploration with a therapist, someone like me, or another coach, or a spiritual advisor, or a mentor, or you can read books and all that, because that's going to help too. But Matt, in my opinion, you need someone else that can help you, because you don't understand our subconscious thoughts.
Yeah, and a couple of things I do want to point out. I know that a lot of what we're talking about here is very personal. And, for some of the people watching, I understand that this isn't exactly the kind of thing where you want to jump in and share. And for the people who are like that, on the bottom of the screen right now, I put up Pete's Facebook contact information. If you wanted to copy that down, here is Pete's LinkedIn information. If you wanted to reach out to him personally in a more private environment, if that would make you feel more comfortable, by all means. This is also an opportunity that I will point out that the National At-Home Dad Network has a bi-weekly mental health check-in support group. This is not therapy. This is not advice. This is literally just a group of dads who are getting together to support each other through their struggles. Next week, starting on Monday evening, I've actually decided that I have founded a substance use support group through the National At-Home Dad Network called Dads Walking the Line. I do want to make people aware that this is not affiliated with any of the programs, be they 12-step or other programs. This is also not focused on an abstinence-only mentality. While abstinence is the path for some people, it's the only option for me personally. For somebody else, the object of the game, as you were saying, is progress is the key. The term I use is, it's harm reduction. Maybe quitting drinking isn't what needs to happen as much as drinking in a way that is less of a danger to you and the people around you. Maybe that's what needs to happen. But regardless, we're going to start doing this twice a month. Our first meeting is going to be this Monday evening. We're going to be doing it at 9 o'clock Central, I think, or 9 o'clock Eastern, I believe. You'll have to bear with me. I hadn't written that down ahead of time. But if you go to our website, if you go to our Facebook page, the information will be out there. And again, we're going to see what the community needs and be there for them if they need it. Again, I just recently got certified as a peer support specialist here in the state of North Carolina for the express purpose of gaining a little bit of the knowledge and the background that I need to be able to foster a group like this so that we can help out as many people as we can with what they need.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate it. But, the key is none of this is a switch or a finite journey. I'm coming up on 10 years sober, much longer since I've done any type of illegal drugs. But it doesn't ever end. I mean, it's
What doesn't ever end? What doesn't ever end?
the conscious choice to not use. I'd be lying if I said, if I didn't, I'd be lying if I said it never gets easier. I think about it a whole lot less now than I did 8-9 years ago. But the fact is, it still pops into my head from time to time.
Here's the thing. There's an interesting quote by a professional cyclist. I might botch it. He's basically a professional cyclist, and he's saying, riding a bike, as you progress and getting better in cycling, this is kind of similar metaphor. It's like it never gets easier. You just go a lot faster.
I mean, that's exactly
it. It's like, right, it's still hard, but the cool thing is we're enjoying life a little more than we used to.
And that's the key.
That's the gist of what you're saying, right?
Yeah. The effort never goes away. It's just the results are there. So the effort becomes, for lack of a better term, it feels like it's more worth it. And also, much like cycling or weightlifting or running or working out or whatever it is that you do, we all know the first time you went to that gym and you lifted, you woke up the next morning and you could barely walk and everything hurt. It doesn't become any easier to lift as much as your body becomes accustomed to doing the effort. The same way that as you work on improving yourself through self-examination and, retraining your mind to cope with stress and pain and the rest of it in a much more productive manner, it never becomes easy. It just becomes a part. It becomes a part of your everyday life. You don't have to consciously think, oh yeah, I need to do this. It just becomes it becomes habitual, which is what we all want out of life, is to have habits, but have those habits be positive habits.
Serving us.
Yes.
They're caring for us. They're caring for our well-being. They're caring for our greater, interest. And yes. I'm happy to talk about them now. I know it's a little late in the talk here, but I'm happy to share some. I have some written down that I think have helped my clients and helped me in my life.
Oh, absolutely. Please.
We kind of got a lot. We talked a lot about, what's in the way. I think I'm telling you guys, it is probably more important than, because once you can break through the big walls, now you can start slowly incorporating self-care and filling your cup into your life. So I want to say this: so to fill your cup, again, they're kind of like self-care. Listen, we all know this, but we don't prioritize it. Sleep. Sleep is the foundation to self-care. And so how do we sleep better? It's very complicated. But I want to tell you the number one thing to help you sleep better, probably, arguably, is how can you manage your stress? If you can manage specific anxiety, if you can learn how to manage your anxiety, I promise you will start sleeping better. One thing to consider, you can get a sleep, I use Whoop, but get some sort of sleep thing, because then you start realizing, holy shit, when I go to bed at 11 o'clock at night and wake up at 5, I feel like crap. And you start seeing the data, you start getting information, you can start making different changes. And so I want to encourage people to really understand, how do you manage your anxiety? How do you manage your stress so you can sleep better? So that's a big thing, how to fill your cup, get better sleep. I would say start there. If you can, from there, focus on connection. Meaning, I know there's a lot of men, including the men that I work with, that struggle with self-confidence, they struggle with shame, they struggle with, not feeling they're worthy to connect. But connection is the solution to loneliness. And so, men, I know we have our families, but if you're lonely and you're within your family, you need connection outside of your family. It's big. And
It
Matt,
is.
you said, Matt, we got these groups through the National at-Home Dads Network. They're not therapy, but they're therapeutic.
Right.
And that's important.
And again, even for the people who may not be ready to pop into a mental health check-in or a substance use group, twice a week, the National At-Home Dad Network does something amazing. On Monday and Thursday nights, they start at 8 o'clock Eastern, and they do something called the Dad Lounge. And this literally started during COVID. It's a Zoom meeting that opens up at 8 o'clock Eastern. And it stays going until whoever the guys are off on the West Coast, that again, I'm on the East Coast, so I have no clue how long they keep it open. But it's when those guys go to bed. And it's literally just a bunch of guys who pop on to hang out and talk. And conversations sometimes are deep. Sometimes, it's sports talk. Sometimes we're talking about the best, the latest Lego set that somebody got, or, the tough day they had with their kids. But it is that connection with your fellow fathers that makes all the difference in the world. And it's 100% just a social hangout. And they do that on Mondays and Thursdays every week.
It's fun.
It is. I highly recommend, anybody who's watching, if you haven't done it, get on our Facebook page, look into our Discord server. They post the link there, and you're more than welcome to come and join us and hang out. It's a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no rules. Nobody has to share the first time they show up or anything. You can just lurk in the back and listen to us talk stupid.
It's powerful. I went to a couple. They're nice.
Yeah.
So I got a couple of things I just want to share as we close. Are we on for 60 minutes only?
Oh, no. I mean, there's no outside time limit on this. I try to aim for about an hour, because I find that most parents, that's about the maximum amount of time that they can dedicate to one thing during the day, as far as our live audience. Now, as far as on the replay, people can break it up into chunks, so it's not really an issue.
Okay. I got a couple things to add, but if you're going to finish what you were saying, I got a couple things I want to share a little bit more about. Okay. Yeah. I was just looking at the time here in the corner, and I wasn't sure. I know we got a little off track. So I just wanted to say, Matt, you asked this question, how do we recharge? How do we fill our cup? And everyone knows kind of the foundational ones, right? We know that, again, I'm going to say sleep, exercise, and connection are probably the three really big ones. If you can learn how to establish a breathing, self-regulation, breathing technique, and just go on YouTube. It's so simple. Type in square breathing, type in self-regulation breathing tips. I would encourage people to get
yoga, meditation.
Yoga Nidra, Nidra. Yoga Nidra is another one that's beautiful. And these things are all online. And also just remember, like anything, it's a muscle. You're not going to be good at it right away, but the more you do it, the better you become, the greater impact you're going to have on your life. So the how you fill your cup. Also, another thing about filling your cup is, when we say connection, by the way, connect to self, to ourselves. That's really important to me, like journaling, solitude, silence, going for solo bike rides, connection to others, those you love, outside of your family too, guys. I also really am a huge advocate for one-on-one dates with your kids. One-on-one dates with your children. If you got 6 or 7 kids, you're smarter than, I only have 3, but if you have a lot of kids, maybe 2 date, go with 2 of them. But I encourage that, because that's how you're going to connect. And then also, if something, a higher power, a spirituality, I don't know, some people are, I have found in research is that if you can connect to something greater than yourself, it could be God, it could be spirit, it could be the universe, the higher power, whatever it is, that's another place that we want to connect. Obviously, nutrition. I'm not going to say the stuff that people know. I'm trying to give some other things that are really important. Why do this work? Why? Why should we do this work? That's what's important here, and that's the benefits, right? Your relationships are going to improve. You're going to be a better father. You're going to feel better about yourself. Your well-being will improve. Your physical health. Listen, the unease of the mind creates dis-ease in the body. And so if you guys can take care of yourself, you're going to have less desire for unhealthy coping mechanisms. So if you're practicing self-care, the cool thing is you're not, because you're eliciting dopamine and other healing properties when you're doing something self-care versus self-sabotage, whether it's pornography or it's alcohol or it's whatever.
Drugs, gambling.
They kind of gambling, video games, avoiding, procrastinating, which avoiding procrastination is just another protective mechanism. So love yourself. You're nervous. You're afraid. So you're not doing the thing. But what I want to say is, listen, when you start doing the things that you know you need for your life, you're going to feel better because naturally that's the result. But also, this is really important. When you start honoring yourself, when you start doing the things you know your heart desires, you know what's so cool about it? You begin to trust yourself. And when you begin to trust yourself, your self-esteem goes higher. And you start having self-confidence. You start believing in yourself. And so I am a huge advocate. Just start small. Go to the gym once a week. Just go once. Yes, eventually you want to go 4 or 5 times a week. Just start.
Yeah.
And so, and at the end of the day, I just want to kind of, is anyone asking questions? I don't see the chat.
No, the chat has been really, really quiet.
Okay, cool. So
I mean, we've had some people watching live, but I think part of the issue is that this is a relatively personal discussion. And I can see where people may be a bit hesitant to reach out on social media where it's going to be out there forever. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to put up your contact info and make sure that people knew that they could reach out one-on-one with you.
Yeah. And I want to say just thank you for promoting this and sharing. I want to let everyone know listening to, reach out to me. That doesn't mean we're working together. That doesn't mean you owe me anything. If you just have a question, I'll answer a question. At the end of the day, I love you. I want to help you. Maybe I can answer one question for you. That sets you on your path. Obviously, if you want to connect with me to learn more about what I do, that's different. But at the end of the day, do not hesitate to reach out. But Matt, I just want to close here with what I really want people to hit home with is, Brene Brown, maybe a lot of people have heard of her, but a lot of men don't realize the beauty of her work. And she has a chapter in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And that chapter is like the 3rd chapter or 4th chapter of the book. There's a reason. The chapter is called The Things That Are in the Way. And that's what I'm gonna hit home again. Work on the things that are in the way, you can't get to where you want to go. And so I encourage that book, by the way, to all men. It'll change your life, help you understand the power of compassion and vulnerability and empathy.
And once again, what's the title?
The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown.
Okay.
A lot of men don't realize, Matt, that they're struggling with shame. And shame is this deep feeling of unworthiness. And if you don't understand you're in shame, dude, you're holding yourself back.
Absolutely.
And so I'm an advocate for self-love. I'm an advocate for men's well-being. I'm an advocate for self-care. The benefits at the end of the day is you're going to have better relationships, which is going to help you feel better about yourself, because we all just want to be better dads, do we not?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, right? And then also, if we don't do this work, we're going to regret it. And regret's pain. That's even more pain than what you're struggling with now. And so I just want to encourage all listening today to judge yourself less, fear the future less, love yourself more, and just give yourself some grace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Pete, look, I thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I really do appreciate it. One of these days, we got to get you out to Home Dad Con, which I think you would really, really enjoy, is getting together with a group of guys that are all at a convention, literally with one purpose of becoming better dads. And for those that are watching, Home Dad Con this year is going to be in St. Louis, Missouri, from October the 17th through the 19th. You can go to our website, athomedad.org. You'll find all the information about it, including the hotel where we're staying, as well as where the convention's being held. We've got a group rate out that way. This month of February, the National At-Home Dad Network is actually having its first ever official membership drive. We are desperately hoping that we can get up to 200 paid members of our organization by the end of this year. And we wanted to kick it off right here in February. If you go to the website, you will see that in addition to our standard $35 membership, where you become a member of the group, you support our mission. I'm the secretary in the group. I put together an envelope and throw in like some stickers and magnets and all kinds of fun little swag, and send that out to you. We're also offering some additional gifts for anybody who feels moved to donate a little bit extra. There is a National At-Home Dad Network keychain, and there is an exclusive t-shirt that will only be available in this month of February. And for those of you who are already members, you can still donate that additional amount and get the keychain and or the exclusive shirt if you choose to. Membership is amazing. This is an organization that I've been a part of since 2016. This organization really did turn around my life when I was in a really dark space, without connection, by myself, really feeling like I didn't have a direction. And I went to Home Dad Con and suddenly walked into a room with, around 100 or so dads that all knew exactly what I was going through, exactly what I was feeling. And it was tremendous. I mean, I haven't looked back since. These guys, this organization is a brotherhood of fathers, and these guys really are my brothers. I highly recommend that everybody look into it. We look forward to seeing all of you soon. Next month's DadX discussion has not been booked currently, so we're going to look into some things, and we'll be announcing that shortly on all of our social media. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for joining us and all of your time, and we hope to see you all next month. Have a good day.